Hello and welcome to anybody who's watching this video. I had scheduled a free Q&A webinar information session today, and nobody turned up. Nobody signed up, which is fine. So I decided to do a recording instead and to share that out. I remember reading a book and I can't remember who it was written by now. Jay Shetty, that's who it was. He wrote Think Like a Monk, and he talked about in there when he first started doing um, presentations and stuff. No one turned up, so he was just talking to an empty room. And then gradually, bit by bit, people started showing up and he was talking to more and more people. And now he's like this famous author and inspirational person. So I'm taking a little bit of inspiration from him today. And instead of doing nothing, I'm talking to my computer, hopefully with some people listening on the other side. So if you are here, welcome. If you're listening to me, welcome. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to listen to this video. What I am going to cover in this video is I'm going to tell you some stories. I'm going to talk a little bit about the nerve and link them a little bit to the nervous system. I'm going to talk a little bit about play and the breath and how that relates to our nervous system and to the work that I do. And I'm just going to do a little bit of an overview at the end of some of the work that I'm doing at the moment, some of the um, supports that I'm looking at providing as well, just so that you have an idea from that about that. So thank you again for joining me, and I hope this is helpful. I'll also try and sprinkle some tools and strategies in throughout the video, and yeah, hopefully it's supportive of wherever you are in your journey right now. And if it all feels too much, feel free to turn it off and not watch, which is completely fine too. We've really, I really honor and support people to listen to their own nervous systems, to understand their capacity and what they have the ability to manage at any given moment, and to really honor that because that's how we can move through life with more regulation and more support and have life go in the way that we would prefer and to really live the life that we choose in a state of thriving rather than just surviving. Because I think so many of us at the moment, with all of the demands, with the state of the world and everything that's happening, everything can feel too much a lot of the time, too much, too fast, too soon. And that's the bottom line is that is the definition of trauma. When our systems are overwhelmed, we create our nervous system automatically creates survival strategies, strategies and ways of being, ways of showing up that support us to move through those challenging moments and those moments of overwhelm to get us through. Which is, it's so amazing that our nervous systems can do that. And we wouldn't be here as a species without that. However, the challenge lies in when we get stuck in those states, stuck in the states of survival, and unable or it's really difficult to shift through them and to move back into a state of regulation and connection and safety and support. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. And if you have any questions, please, wherever you're watching this, if you're watching this on YouTube, put them in the comments if you've got any questions or comments or thoughts. If you're watching this via the email or the blog, again, chuck the comments, send me an email back. I am happy to answer any questions and feel, really strongly about this work and would really, love the opportunity to chat further about anything that you have questions, thoughts, or comments about. So, yeah, feel free to jump in and let me know. Okay, so let me have a little drink and just find my ground. So, actually, this is a perfect opportunity, to give a little tool, right? So I'm sitting here looking at myself, talking to a camera, which feels very uncomfortable for me. Um, and I it's hard because I can go and edit, but actually I'm not going to go and edit. This video is going to go out exactly as it is. But I can feel as I'm talking, I can feel my heart beating faster. I can feel like a heaviness in the pit of my stomach, and I can feel everything starting to tense up, like this sympathetic activation telling me to run. Basically, you know, my body, my nervous system is detecting a cue of danger because this feels uncomfortable and it feels not completely overwhelming, but a little bit overwhelming. And so it is getting me ready to do something about that. So I know I'm attuned enough most of the time to my nervous system that I can feel that happening and I can do something to shift that. Okay, so I'm just going to have a little drink a cup of tea. And before I take my sip, I'm actually going to put my hands on the cup and feel the warmth and connect to that warmth in my hands, getting myself back into my body. And I'm just going to take a bit of a breath and have a little drink. Feel my feet on the ground again, getting myself back into my body. And just taking that moment to check in. Mentally, I thanked my body. I let it know that I'm actually okay, that there's no reason for me, there's no danger, there's no reason for me to run, that I'm completely safe right now. I used a longer out breath than in breath to signal to my vagus nerve and my parasympathetic part of my nervous system that it can slow down, that I'm okay. And as I do that, I can feel my shoulders relax a little bit. I feel my heart slow down, just minuscule, because I still need energy to be here and to talk and um, to engage in the world. But I don't want too much that I'm flooded and overwhelmed, that I, go into a full survival state. So it's really good when we can recognize the signs and signals from our body when we're moving into that state. But a lot of the time we can't recognize those things. It's called the autonomic nervous system. And the reason that it's called that is because it's automatic. It does it without us even thinking about it. It's below conscious awareness most of the time. And it happens in a split second because you think if you're in real danger, you don't want to be thinking about what's going to happen or your response for time, for an extended period of time. Think about if, you're driving in the car and something jumps out in front of you. You've got to straight away slam on those brakes. And that's an automatic response that happens, to keep you safe, right? So that's one way. You think about if you're walking along, out on the farm or in the bush or even even in town these days, in the middle of summer and you see something on the path, automatically you stop and you freeze generally. And some people might run, some people might scream, but there's an automatic response because, their message is it's a snake. You're in danger. Then it might just be a stick. But that response has happened before you've even thought, oh, it's just a stick. So a lot of the time, our responses are happening below our level of awareness without us even realizing. And actually, a lot of the tools and strategies that we talk about aren't necessarily helpful in those moments because we're already there. We've already gone to that space before we have a chance to come back, to stop it before it gets too far. But what we can do is we can use these strategies over time to build up resilience and capacity and support our nervous system to bounce back more quickly after moving into these survival states and to build up our ability to stay in a regulated, connected, and safe space, which people might call the window of tolerance, this space where we feel okay, we can manage the demands day to day, and we can make decisions, we can engage with the world, we can get stuff done. We're coming from a space where we have this capacity. And by engaging with these tools and strategies more and more when we're feeling regulated or when we're feeling a little bit dysregulated, we can build that capacity and that window of tolerance over time, and make our nervous system more flexible to bounce back to that state after being in a survival mode. Rather than, these things that talk about staying calm, you know, because, and in the moment, when you're about to yell at your kids, do some breathing and, bring yourself back and ground yourself. And they're all really great, but a lot of the time, speaking from both personal and professional experience, in the moment, it doesn't work because your nervous system's already there. It's already moved into that state without you even being aware of it. So let's just take a breath together. So breathing in through the nose and letting it out through the mouth with a sigh. One more time, in through the nose and out through the mouth with a sigh. Let's do one more together. As you might have seen, I like to give my shoulders a little bit of a wriggle when I do that. And so when we breathe out for longer than we breathe in, it signals to our vagus nerve, part of our autonomic nervous system, to slow down. It connects us in with the parasympathetic part of our nervous system, the rest and digest part, and it signals safety most of the time for us, which supports our nervous system to slow down. And the breath is something that is free. We have with us, we have it with us wherever we go. Um, and although it is also an unconscious part of our physiology, um, we can also bring conscious awareness to it. We can bring awareness to how we're breathing in the moment by simply just noticing, but we can also change it to support how we're feeling and how we're moving through the day. Okay, so I think I would like to tell a little bit of a story now. I've kind of gone a little bit all over the place, but hopefully you're still following with me. Um, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. It's been coming into my mind, and it's a memory from when I was maybe 17, maybe just 18. So when I was 17 and a half, I moved to Melbourne. I went to school really young, and I moved to Melbourne for university, and lived down there with a friend. And yeah, I'd never like I'd been to Melbourne, but I wasn't a city girl. I'm from the country, a very small country town, and Melbourne was just like mind blowing. Like I didn't know anything about public transport. I didn't really know the city. Yeah, there was so many new things that move brought with it. So I remember this time, and I don't remember if it was the first year when I moved down to Melbourne or if it was in the second year. But my friend and we had to go to the laundromat to do some washing, actually, just some drying. I remember it was raining, so I'm, you know, we needed to get clothes dry, and we didn't have a dryer back in those days. We had a washing machine, and that was all. And things just weren't drying. So we went down to the laundromat, and I remember sitting in the car and we needed change. We needed coins for the laundromat. And my friend said to me, you go in, there was a store next door to the laundromat, and they gave me, $10 or whatever and said, go and get some change. And in that moment, like I didn't recognize it then, but looking back now, what I remember vividly is this frozen feeling, this feeling of not being able to move. But on the inside, my heart was beating out of my chest. My breath was shallow and way up here in the very top of my chest. And it felt like I couldn't breathe, like I couldn't get a breath. I could feel the tension across the back of my shoulders. Like I remember that really tense feeling, and in my arms and my legs. And I could feel the energy moving through my body, like pulsing fast and hard. But on the outside, I probably looked like startled. like a deer in the headlights is how I like to describe it. And in my brain, I remember thinking, all you need to do is go in and ask for some change. This is not a big task. This is not hard. But despite what I told myself, I could not move. And my friend who I was with at the time, they were having their own response. I assume. And they just could not understand why I couldn't do such a simple task. And I couldn't explain to them why I couldn't do it. I couldn't even explain to myself, actually, at the time, why I couldn't do such a simple task. So now I know that was a freeze state, a state where everything, our physiology has mobilized, has got everything started to protect us in a sympathetic way. So everything is moving, giving us energy to do something about it. But there's also this piece of freeze, like we can't move. We can't do anything about it. Now, when I think about it and I think about going in to get some change, like that doesn't seem like a scary thing, like it's not that big a danger. However, different experiences, different ways of showing up in the world, different survival responses and protective responses can detect things that are not dangerous as dangerous. So even when we are safe, physically it looks like we're safe. Emotionally, it looks like we're safe. On the outside, on the inside, our nervous system can detect danger. So I'd just like to give you a few examples. Like that's an example from me when I was like 17 or 18, and it still stays with me so vividly today, of a real survival response, that real freeze response. And I see it even in my kids today, when I suggest that they might ask for something at the shop, for example, or when they might ask someone for help at like an activity or something, they might ask somebody for help. I can see that response in them where, it's fear. You can see the fear in their eyes. If you think about a deer in the headlights, like that's exactly what it is. Like the deer sees this danger, but they're stopped, they're frozen in time. But on the inside, if you looked at their physiology, everything would be moving. So that's just one type of survival response. Um, but to go with that sympathetic mobilization, we also have a flight response, which is where we run away, we take off. We might run away and hide, and a fight response where we, try and fight the danger. So, yelling, screaming, hitting, kicking, throwing things. So those responses mobilize all of our energy, to do something about the danger. But then we also have another part of our physiology that slows everything down. So if our system detects that it can't do anything, that it can't fight, run away from, or, in some other way protect us from the danger, it will start to shut down. And what this feels like is a slowing of everything, all of the energy moving out of our body. Everything slows down, starts to shut down to conserve energy. So this isn't immobilized, like a collapsed state. Some people call it shutdown. So I'm just going to go through some everyday examples. First for us as adults and then for kiddos. And just see if you recognize yourself in any of these. And before I do that, what I want to say is this does not mean there is something wrong with you. If you recognize yourself in any of these examples, know that this is a natural, physiological, biological support of our systems to keep us safe from the world. even if it's not something that's safe, that's dangerous, sorry. Just like my example, something that was not dangerous per se, but that my system detected as danger. Okay. So a short fuse, someone says something to you and you yell at them immediately without even knowing that you're doing it. When you make a mistake, so say um, you accidentally drop something and you start yelling and kicking things and throwing things. When you pull out of social engagements, when you say yes, but then when it gets closer, you say no because it all feels too hard and too overwhelming. When you have a job to do and you just keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. Staring at your to-do list, but not being able to start. Seeing the red dot with 40,000 emails or messages or notifications and feeling your brain just shut down and turn off. Wanting to do no dive and not get out of bed. Binge watching TV. Any of our behaviors that can be classed as addictive. Drinking alcohol, eating, gambling, shopping, keeping super busy, always on, always doing something, always saying yes. Now, some of these responses definitely can be functioning well in society, a way of actually showing up in the world and the way that you want to live. And if you are making conscious choices to behave in that way and to, interact in the world in that way, then absolutely 150% go for it. However, if these choices are being guided from an unconscious space, if you ever feel, oh my God, I just wish I didn't do this, or I wish I could show up in a different way, then that is a really sure sign that you are probably operating from a survival response. So let's just take a moment and let's just put our hands on our chest and one on our belly, just on our belly button, and just apply some light pressure. You can close your eyes if that feels good for you. If it feels good for you, you can rub your collarbone just there, or you can just place some light pressure. And again, just take a long, slow, full breath and just ask, what do I need now? Just keep breathing, connecting to your body. You might notice some sensations. I notice I feel a little bit cold in my hands. My legs want to be uncrossed, and both my feet on the ground. And I notice I'm also conscious of time, so I'd like to keep going. But just this short pause, just this short check-in can be enough to switch, can be enough to change the trajectory of our day or the moment at least. So let's think about our kiddos now. Let's think about some of the ways that these survival responses might show up for them. The kids who can't sit still, who are constantly moving up, down, around, upside down on the couch, swinging on their chairs in class, tapping pens, making noise. Sometimes these responses can be a survival response, kind of in the, with that mobilization energy. The kids who are quick to anger, to yelling, to screaming, to throwing things, to hitting, to kicking, to biting. And often it can seem like it's come from nowhere, but there is always a reason for these behaviors, even if we can't see it, even if we don't know. The kids who run off when we want to talk to them, the kids who hide, maybe behind their parents, maybe, in a space that feels safe for them. The kids who you ask a question and they can't answer, or the answer is, I don't know. Even a simple question like, what color cup do you want? Frozen in time like the deer in the headlights. The kids who are always bored, have nothing to do, feel like any option you give them, they don't know, or they don't care, or they don't want to. The kids who have the low energy and move through the world seeming like nothing lights them up. Everything is slow and hard and difficult. Again, these responses sometimes can show up, they are the way they are, but most of the time, in my experience, in fact, actually, all of the time in my experience, they're a sign that a child is not coping with the day-to-day of the world, just like it's a sign that adults aren't coping with the day-to-day of the world. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean you're bad. It just means you need a little bit more support, you or the kiddos in your life. And there are lots of ways to support both us as adults and the kiddos in our lives to be more regulated and more resilient. So let's think about just for a short moment. I've talked all about survival responses, but I just want to talk for a moment about the ventral vagal part of our nervous system, the part where we feel connected, safe, supported, loved. In this space, we're able to move through the world. We can make decisions reasonably easily. We can get things done. We can be productive, but not, to the detriment of our own needs. We can take care of ourselves and each other. We eat well, we sleep well, we can interact with other people reasonably easily. Kids can play and, engage in the world in the ways that they want. Often we see smiles and, feel warmth and lit up and excited and all of these things. And this is a space where we want to come back to time and time again. We're never going to be here all of the time. Like in our world, we also need sympathetic activation and shutdown for different parts of life. Like even just to get out of the chair, we need some sympathetic activation. We need our body to get that energy for us so we can get up. Kids need sympathetic activation for play. We need it for sports and exercise and sex. So there's a place for this energy as well. And the same for parasympathetic immobilization, that's slowing down, like when we sleep and we rest and we meditate and we just connect with nature by slowing down and, for example, looking at the clouds or the stars. We need our body to slow down and to conserve energy and to kind of, bring it in and support us in that way. So these states are important to move through the world, but it's when we get stuck in the survival state that it's a problem. And during the day, we move up and down and in and out of these states, multiple times a day. And that's okay as well. I don't like to use the word normal because what is normal, but it is normal to move in and out of these states, multiple times a day, all day, every day. But what we want to do with our interventions and our support of ourselves and our kiddos is to build resilience. So we spend more and more time in that ventral vagal state, and that supports us to have life go in the way that we want and to feel like we have choice, to feel like we have choice in how we show up in the world, what we do, and how we interact, rather than, sorry, I just lost my train of thought, rather than moving through the world from these survival states and from being triggered or being activated by things from the past. We want to support our nervous system to feel safe enough, connected enough, and supported enough um, in our everyday life and not be triggered into survival states by things that aren't actually dangerous, like my story at the start. Like ultimately, I want to have choice that I could, take that $10, go in and get the change for the laundromat without being stuck in a freeze response, because that's a really easy, reasonably safe thing to be able to do. So, lots and lots of information today. Before I finish up, just a couple of things. As most of you who are watching this probably know, I am a play therapist. If you don't, I am a play therapist. And play is a child's language. Play is how children learn, how they grow and develop, and how they make sense of their world. You only have to walk into a kindergarten or, a childcare center or a space where there are a lot of children and look around and see how they're all playing. And they will be making sense of their world and learning and growing through what they are doing. I'm really passionate about supporting people to understand how important play is for children, not just for children who have experienced trauma or overwhelm or who have disabilities or are struggling in the world in some sort of way, but for all children and actually for adults too. Play is important for us all, but especially important for children. And through, my programs and the way I show up in the world and shine my light, that is one of the key areas that I like to support is supporting parents, carers, and educators and people who work with children and families to understand the importance of play and to understand how they can use play to support children to develop, learn, grow, and make sense of their world. Equally as important for me is the breath and the ways that we can use the breath consciously to support us as adults to come back more and more into that state of regulation. And a lot of you may or may not know that I've been doing breathwork training over the last 18 months and I'm coming towards the end of my breathwork training. But my plan is moving forward to really integrate the breath and play, the breath for adults and play for children, to support children and families to be empowered and to move into the world to thrive, not just survive, and to support them to be able to have choice and to have life go in the way that they intend, because that's what we all deserve. We all deserve to have life go in the way that we intend and that we choose, not to be governed by these survival responses and responses from, our past and our limiting beliefs. So, yeah, the breath is something we have with us wherever we go. It's free, it costs us nothing. And simply by taking a longer, slower, fuller than usual breath and breathing out for longer than you breathe in, breathing in and out through your nose, we can change our state. Equally, we can use our breath to energize us as well. So, over the coming weeks and months, I hope to share some of my knowledge about the breath, some of the ways that we can use it to to change our state and to move through the world in ways that we would choose, rather than from this survival state. And I do have a free PDF on my website, which I will share with this video, that you can go to that has, I'm pretty sure, six different ways of breathing that can change your state, in the moment. So if you're, at that 3:30 slump, but you've still got so much work to do, you can do an activating breath to give you some more energy to support your body to feel energized to get through the rest of the day. Or if you're needing to regulate and bring some of that energy down, there's a slowing, calming breath that can support you with that. And equally as important and just as accessible is play for children. You actually don't need much. Kids don't need much. Think about, birthday presents and Christmas presents that you give children, and then they play with the boxes or the wrapping paper more than they play with the actual toy or thing that you've given them. Kids when allowed to play and when allowed to have their imagination, come up with the most amazing, incredible ideas. But they just need that free time and support and to feel safe enough, connected enough, and supported enough to be able to engage in play in a really meaningful way for them. They also need that time without people telling them what to do, which can often be hard for adults to comprehend. So, play and the breath to support us to have life go in the way that we choose and intend, and to support us to have more choice is, my bread and butter. That's what I preach. That is what I want to, get out into the world and to support people to understand that there's nothing wrong with them, that they just need support or they may need things to work in a different way. All our brains and all our nervous systems are not wired the same way, although we have similar physiology and biology, and we have the same parts of our nervous system and the same parts of our brain. Our experiences and our growth and our development impact on how we show up in the world and how our nervous system and our brain responds. So, if people can have more information about that and knowledge, I feel that really empowers them to make better choices for themselves and to understand themselves better rather than thinking there is something wrong with them. And I really love to support people through the breath and through play in that way. So, this has gone for a little bit longer than I expected, but just to finish off, I just want to mention a couple of programs that are coming up. So, well, not coming up actually, I'm just taking some expressions of interest around two programs in particular that I am using to bring all of this stuff together: nervous system information, knowledge and understanding, skills and strategies and tools to support your nervous system, and different ways of engaging with your nervous system to create some more regulation over time. So the first of those programs is a therapeutic book club using the Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown, as the springboard for all of that information and connection. And the second program is the Safe and Sound Protocol program, which again brings all of that together, but also uses specifically filtered music to support our regulation from the inside out. And the music is specially filtered to target our nervous system, to target the vagus nerve, and to support us to feel more regulated over time. So both of those programs will be kept very small, 4 to 6 participants. They will run for an hour to 2 hours each week, and they will run for 6 or 7 weeks. I can't remember what I decided on, but 6 or 7 weeks. And expressions are open until Sunday. Again, I will put the link for the website page to put in your expressions of interest with this video. And yeah, right now I'm just taking expressions of interest to see if anybody is interested in those programs. But it's just like a way to support your nervous system, to develop more skills and strategies, and to gain more knowledge about how your nervous system works, about how all our nervous system works, but also about how your nervous system works, because we'll be working specifically with your nervous system as well as talking more generally. Also, coming up real soon, the information for this is not quite out yet, but really soon I'll be running my co-facilitate groups for my Breathwork Mastery RBM training, which is super exciting. I'm going to be doing 4 online sessions over 4 weeks, and also an in-person retreat, which will be 2 breathes on the Saturday and 1 breathe on the Sunday. And the style of breathwork that we use, or that is Breathwork Mastery RBM, is a slower, fuller, longer than usual breath. And it activates the parasympathetic part of our nervous system, that part that slows us down, the rest and digest part of our nervous system, that helps us feel safe enough, connected enough, and supported enough to, move towards and to clear and resolve and release anything that is in the way of having life go in the way that we intend, or to anchor in ways of being in the world that we would prefer to feel in the world. The sessions are about 3.5 hours long, and they consist of, some information and some guidance on how the session runs. Then we set intentions, meaningful intentions for you. We breathe for a 90-minute breath cycle, and then we debrief. And all of those parts of the process are really important. And I will talk more to this when I release my co-facilitate sessions. But just to give you an idea at the moment that is coming up, the online sessions will start in August and the in-person sessions are in September. But more details on that to follow. The other exciting thing that will be coming up shortly, and I will be putting out hopefully in the next couple of weeks, is some free sessions where people can have an individual session with me, one-on-one on Zoom or probably on Zoom or in person, depending on where you are, just to check in and chat about whether it's yourself or your kiddos, about where you're at and some things that might be helpful, not necessarily from me, but just to help you navigate the world. I particularly find people who have just got a diagnosis for their kiddos, or they're jumping into the NDIS world in the early intervention space, that they get so much information and it all feels overwhelming. And I feel really strongly about supporting people to feel empowered in their choices for themselves and their kids. And just to be that co-regulating presence to support them, to understand things a little bit more, to understand themselves or their kiddos a little bit more, and to then be able to make some more informed decisions moving forward about, what they want, what they need, and what would be supportive for them. So I'm going to open up some spaces for that, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. As I've really found, everything takes so much time. Well, for me, it does. I find, the tech side of things really tricky to navigate. So it seems to take a lot longer than I suspect things will to get things up and running, along with, social media posts and things like that. Like, that is not where I want to be. I want to be supporting people and engaging with people and out there on the front line, because that's where change is going to happen. But I know that all of this is part of it as well, and it makes people's experience better and more supportive, and the admin side of things more manageable for me. So in time, I will get those things sorted. But if at any time you have any questions or you would like to connect in any way, my email will be with this. You can always contact me via Facebook, my Facebook page, Healing Hands Help Hearts, or yeah, on LinkedIn also I am on, and also I have a YouTube channel, Authentic Alana. But I will put the links for all of that with this video. And yeah, I am so would be so happy to connect with any of you at any time. I just love sharing my knowledge and supporting people to become their true or authentic selves and to shine their light, because that's, we're all here to do that, to shine our light and to show up in the world in the ways that we want. But it is so hard. Our world is not, our world and our society is not geared for that. It is geared for us to be overwhelmed and overextended and to be feeling, like things are too much. And I completely understand when people are feeling that way, because, the world often does not feel supportive. But I want you to know that there are people that can support you to feel better, to feel like you are actually moving forward, and to have life go in the way that you would prefer, and to start thriving rather than just surviving. All right. Well, I feel like that is everything that I feel like I want to say for now. If you have made it this far in this video, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching and engaging with this. I hope there has been something for you to take away out of this video. As I said, please connect, ask any questions. Give me any thoughts or comments. If there's something that you would like support with, you would like to see me doing, please let me know, because I'm always open to conversations about ways that I can support people in the world. And yeah, anything else that you need, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I am sending you so much love and support today as you move out into the world, whatever you are doing, and just sending you so much co-regulation and connection. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to connecting again soon. Take care. Bye.